Hi everyone. In this second lecture on human reproduction, we are going to discuss about the gametogenesis in both male and female. So in the case of male, the gametogenesis is known as spermatogenesis, where the spermatogonia present inside the seminiferous tubules will generate spermatozoa or sperms. In female, in the process of oogenesis, oogonia present in the ovary will generate ova or eggs. Now, coming to the important differences between the male and female gametogenesis process. In the case of male, the gametogenesis, that is spermatogenesis, will start only after puberty. That is, after attaining the adolescence only, the spermatogenesis process will start. But in the case of female, the oogenesis process will be initiated in the fetal stage, but it will complete at the time of fertilization. So we'll see the details of this in detail. Now coming to the another important difference, the spermatogenesis process will continue throughout the life, whereas the oogenesis process will stop after menopause. Both process involve multiplication, growth, maturation, differentiation. So in the case of spermatogenesis, how this spermatogonia will be producing this spermatozoa or sperms, and in the process of oogenesis, how the oogonia are developing into ova. This is what we are going to discuss in this lecture. So before going into the details of the spermatogenesis and oogenesis, we'll just look into the brief account on the mitosis and meiosis process. So in a simple way, we'll try to understand these two processes. In the case of mitosis, if one diploid cell undergo mitosis, two diploid cells are produced. If one haploid cell undergo mitosis, two haploid cells. If triploid cell, two triploid cells are produced. Basically, two identical cells, genetically identical cells, are produced in the mitosis process. So in the case of mitosis, before the actual karyokinesis and cytokinesis, that is the actual cell division, there will be an interphase. So in this interphase, in the S phase, there will be replication of DNA. So here if I take 2n as 4, totally 4 chromosomes are there. In the interphase, the DNA is being replicated. This is the chromosome and this is its replicated form. The same way the remaining 3 also, the chromosomes and their replicated forms are here. Now when you just look into the chromosome number, it is 4 here in the first case. After the completion of interphase also, it will be considered as 4 only, because as a result of replication, two sister chromatids are produced. When these two sister chromatids are attached to the centromere, still this is considered as one chromosome only. When these two sister chromatids are separated from each other, then they will be considered as two different chromosomes. Therefore, here if it is chromosome number is 4, here also the chromosome number will be 4. The same way, here if it is chromosome number is 46, here also it will be 46 only. So there is no change in the chromosome number basically due to interphase. But the DNA content, due to the process of replication, it is doubled. So if the DNA content is 2C here, I can take it as 4C in this case. Later in the process of mitosis, the division, that is karyokinesis and cytokinesis, will occur, that results into two diploid cells. That's how the mitosis will be. Now in the case of meiosis, when one diploid cell undergo meiosis, totally 4 haploid cells are produced. Interphase is same as this, where the replication of DNA will occur, that makes the 2C into 4C again, that is the DNA content is doubled, but the chromosome number will remain same. Now the meiosis include two different substages, meiosis 1 and meiosis 2. In meiosis 1, which is actual reduction division, the chromosome number is reduced to half, whereas the meiosis 2 is similar to the mitosis, where two identical cells are produced from this resultant daughter cells. Therefore from these two cells are produced. So this is how totally 4 haploid cells are produced in meiosis. So coming to the first process, that is spermatogenesis in male. Actually, there are spermatogonia as we have seen in the reproduction part, that is reproductive system part, where you can see this is the cross section of one seminiferous tubule, where here you can see spermatogonia. This thing is spermatogonia, and these are the Sertoli cells. So spermatogonia will develop into the sperms or spermatozoa, whereas Sertoli cells will provide the nutrition to this growing sperms. So this is how the seminiferous tubules will be. So when you just start with this, so spermatogonia initially will be multiplied. So many spermatogonial cells will be produced. So the number of spermatogonia increased here. That is called multiplication stage. Later, the size of the spermatogonial cell will increase, and this particular stage is called growth. Now it is considered as the primary spermatocyte, which is ready for the reduction process. So here the cell that is shown is after the completion of interphase. So this is after the completion of interphase where the replication is already completed. So here if it is 2n equals to 4, again it is 2n equals to 4 only. That's where we have seen. Now this is undergoing the first round of meiosis, that is meiosis 1. Here there will be pairing of homologous chromosomes. Here the homologous chromosomes are shown with the similar color. This is dark green and the light green. This is one homologous chromosome pair. This is another homologous chromosome pair. So in the process of meiosis, these homologous chromosomes will be paired in the prophase 1, and later they will be separated from each other. Therefore, the separation will be like this. That is, one chromosome from this homologous chromosome pair is in this, and from this particular pair one. And the same way, this cell receives one of this chromosome and one of this chromosome. That's how the distribution of chromosomes will be. Therefore, the chromosome is number is reduced to half. This is one possibility. Another possibility can be like this. That is, the dark green and the red. This particular red can be there in this. Therefore, that this one may pair with another one. So depending on how these chromosomes are arranged, actually during metaphase 1, this difference will come, but basically whichever it is, the chromosome number is reduced to half. Now in the meiosis process, from each cell, this is actually called the dyad of cells which are haploid. From each cell, two cells will be produced. As the meiosis 2 is similar to the mitosis, so if it is 2n, if it is n, that is haploid, that is n equals to 2, then here two chromosomes, here two chromosomes, as the sister chromatids are separated in this case. So this is how the meiosis in the primary spermatocytes will be, which means one spermatocyte can generate 4 spermatids. So these are the spermatid cells, which are haploid. This particular process is called maturation. This particular stage of the development, spermatogenesis, is called maturation. So one primary spermatocyte is generating 4 spermatids. Now each spermatid will differentiate. It will attain the tail and it will become motile. That process is called spermiogenesis. So the conversion of spermatid into sperm or spermatozoon is called spermiogenesis. The total process is spermatogenesis. This particular step is spermiogenesis. So you can see in the cross section of this seminiferous tubules, primary spermatocyte, this is the secondary spermatocyte, these are the spermatids, and you can see the spermatozoa also. During this process is taking place, the same thing is shown here also. So when this process is taking place, the sperms or spermatozoa are actually present inside the lining of this seminiferous tubule with Sertoli cells. Once this spermiogenesis is completed, the spermatozoa will be released into the lumen of this. That is, initially they are present inside this lining, say like this, right, with the Sertoli cells. Now they will be released into the lumen. This release from the Sertoli cells is called spermiation. So three different technical terms that we have seen here. Spermatogenesis is the total process where the spermatogonia will generate the spermatozoa. Spermiogenesis is the conversion of spermatids into spermatozoa. That is differentiation process here. Whereas the spermiation is the release of the spermatozoa from the Sertoli cells into lumen. So these are all the different events that takes place during the spermatogenesis process. Now coming to the hormonal regulation of this process. So this is again the cross section of the seminiferous tubule, the testis, where you can see the seminiferous tubule, and these are the interstitial cells or Leydig cells. Right. Now in the process of this regulation, the total spermatogenesis, initially in the childhood stage there will be some release of gonadotropin releasing hormone. So this is GnRH, that is gonadotropin releasing hormone. But after attaining the puberty, the activity of GnRH will be increased. Therefore, it will act on the anterior pituitary, that is, this is the hypothalamus region, and these are the neurosecretory cells of the hypothalamus, and this is the portal vessel present between the anterior pituitary and this hypothalamus. So this portal vessel will connect these two, and this portal vessel is called hypophyseal portal vessel. And when this GnRH is released here, that is when the GnRH is produced inside this from this neurosecretory cells, that will enter into this portal vessel. Through this portal vessel, it can enter into this where it is released. So this acts on the anterior pituitary nerve. So as a result of the action of GnRH on the anterior pituitary, there will be release of two different hormones, FSH and LH. That is follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone from this anterior pituitary region. Now, this follicular stimulating hormone acts on the Sertoli cells. So these are the Sertoli cells which are present inside the lining of the seminiferous tubule and will make the release of androgen binding protein ABP and inhibin. Two different factors are generated from Sertoli cells. The function of androgen binding protein is spermiogenesis. So basically this is the protein that binds with the androgen, that's why androgen binding protein. So when this androgen binding protein is released from these Sertoli cells, so these are all say the androgen binding proteins, they'll bind with the androgen which is generated from the interstitial cells. So here the interstitial cells are. So this one will release the androgens. So these androgens will be concentrated inside the seminiferous tubule because of this androgen binding protein that helps in the spermiogenesis process. Now coming to the inhibin hormone, this is the hormone which is also produced in the female reproductive system from granulosa cells. So the function of this hormone is to inhibit the synthesis of FSH from anterior pituitary. Now coming to the luteinizing hormone, so as a result of the stimulation by the GnRH, the anterior pituitary will release this LH, luteinizing hormone. This luteinizing hormone will act on the Leydig cells or interstitial cells. That is the reason why in the case of male, the LH is actually known as ICSH, where it is interstitial cell stimulating hormone. So this is the word that we use in the case of male, ICSH. Now these Leydig cells or the interstitial cells will generate the testosterone hormone. That is one kind of androgen. which is involved in the spermatogenesis and the development of secondary sexual characters also. So this is how the regulation of the spermatogenesis in the male will be. So this is how the hormonal regulation will be. Now coming to the spermatozoa generated in this process. So as we know, the sperm is one of the smallest cell in the human body. The size is very small and it is a very motile structure, motile cell. So it is motile because of the presence of flagellum. So one spermatozoon, when I just look into that, it consists of head, middle piece and tail. So it consists of totally 3 different parts. The head consists of acrosome and nucleus. This is where the haploid nucleus is present. Now coming to this acrosome, it is one cap-like structure formed mainly from Golgi. So this one is actually produced from the Golgi. And the important component of this acrosome is hyaluronidase. This is an enzyme also known as a sperm lysine, which will be helpful in the fertilization process for the spermatozoon to pierce into the ovum. So during the fertilization, the sperm can be penetrated into the ovum because of this hyaluronidase. The same thing, the sperm head part. So you can see this is the lateral section of this head part and head and middle piece also. And this is the cross section of the different components. So this particular part's cross section is this. This part's cross section is this. The same way, this part's cross section is this. Like this, this is the lateral section. Its cross sections or transverse sections are shown here. Now coming to the neck region, that is this. It is the short, very short part present between the head and middle piece. In this, we can find 2 different centrioles. One is towards the nucleus. See this one. This is proximal centrioles. Whereas the distal centriole will actually give rise to this axial filament. Axial filament is present in the middle. So there are 2 centrioles. Proximal centriole will give the nucleus, that is towards the nucleus, whereas the distal centriole is giving the axial filament. Now coming to the middle piece, this is where actually the mitochondria are present and the energy required for the sperm motility is actually generated inside this one. This mitochondria are present as one spiral structure, one twisted spiral structure around this central axial filament. So you can see the spiral structure here. This is called mitochondrial spiral or Nebenkan. And this one, as we have seen, it will provide the energy. Now coming to the lifespan of each spermatozoa, it can be around 5 to 6 days. And when I just look into the components which are released from the male reproductive tract, along with the spermatozoa, there are other secretions from different glands. The glands included the seminal vesicles, prostate and bulbourethral gland. Means whatever the secretions from these glands will be added with the spermatozoa. Now it is called semen. So it is one milky white fluid that consists of sperms and the seminal plasma. The seminal plasma is actually secreted from the different glands of male reproductive tract. Now coming to the quantity of this, in each ejaculation, there will be release of about 2 to 5 ml of semen that consists of 200 to 300 million sperms. And in this, around 60% sperms must be having normal shape, of which at least 40% must show vigorous motility. That is, 60% must show a normal shape. They must have the normal shape. That is, the development has to be completed. And in this, at least 40% should have the normal motility. See, all the sperms which are released, that is 200 to 300 million sperms which are released, may not have the same motility. So for this normal fertilization to occur, for the normal fertility in the male, this is the requirement. So around 60% of sperms must have the normal shape, of which at least 40% must show vigorous motility for normal fertility. So then only the normal fertility can be possible. Now coming to the oogenesis process, oogonia, which are present inside the ovary, will develop into the primary oocyte, which will start undergoing the meiosis process. So in the process of meiosis, it will produce two haploid cells. One is the secondary oocyte, the other one is first polar body. Here the important difference is when compared to the spermatogenesis. So as we know, mitosis, meiosis refers to the karyokinesis only. It is not about the cytokinesis. So when this primary spermatocyte, which is of diploid, undergoing mitotic division, the nucleus will divide properly, normally. That is, two haploid nuclei will be produced because it is meiosis 1. Now, the karyokinesis will be followed by cytokinesis. When the cytokinesis is taking place, there will be unequal distribution of cytoplasm between these two daughter cells. Therefore, one will attain large amount of cytoplasm, whereas the other one will attain a very small amount of cytoplasm. Therefore, two unequally sized cells will be produced. In this one is the secondary oocyte is the larger cell that attains maximum amount of cytoplasm is the secondary oocyte is, whereas this first one is one polar body. So it's a first polar body because it is another polar body is going to be produced. Now the secondary oocyte will undergo second round of meiosis to produce two haploid cells. Again, the distribution of cytoplasm will be unequal. Therefore, one ovum and another polar body will be released. That is, this one will receive very small amount of cytoplasm. So this is how from one spermatocyte, sorry, from primary oocyte, one ovum will be produced. Whereas from one spermatocyte, that is one primary spermatocyte, totally 4 sperms are produced. So this is the difference between the spermatogenesis and oogenesis process will be in terms of the number of the functional gametes produced. Now, when you just look into the process of this oogenesis, it actually includes another important event that takes place parallelly, that is the development of follicles. The oocytes which are present inside the ovary, they are not free. Instead, they are actually surrounded by the granulosa cells. So the oocyte, the oocyte, if this is the oocyte in different stages, we'll see the stages. Now these are all the granulosa cells. This is completely called one follicle. So to understand the oogenesis process better, we need to see how this oocyte is actually releasing this ovum, that is developing into ovum, and how this follicular development also. So these two things can be seen parallelly, where so we'll just start with the oogonia here, which are present inside the ovary. So when you just look into the number of oogonia in the early stages of development, so as we know, in the fetal stage itself, the oogenesis process will be initiated. So here, the number of oogonia present in each ovary will be around 2 million. So total number of oogonia present in two ovaries, because the female consists of two ovaries, it will be 4 million. Now, this oogonia will develop into the primary oocyte, which is actually arrested in reduction division 1 in the prophase 1 in the diploidine stage. That is, the reduction division will start in the fetal stage itself, but it is being arrested in the reduction division 1. That is, in the first meiotic division itself, the cell division is arrested. And that particular stage where this cell division is arrested is prophase 1. In that it is diploidine stage. So for this cell division to complete, the requirement is by for stimulation by the hormones. That is FSH and LH hormones are required for this. So oogonia started dividing through meiosis, but it is being arrested in the first meiotic division itself. So primary oocyte is in arrested state, that is in the reduction division 1 state. Now it is surrounded by the granulosa cells. See, I am talking about the fetal stage only. The primary oocyte is now surrounded by the granulosa cells. Then it is called primary follicle. So as we have seen, oocyte refers to one cell which is present there. Now surround along with this granulosa cells, now it is called the follicle. So initially primary follicle is developed like this. So at the time of birth, the ovaries consist of primary follicles which are actually developed in the fetal stage itself. So at the time of birth, this is how the condition will be. Now from birth to the puberty, actually this primary follicle number will be decreased. There will be degeneration of many of these primary follicles which are actually developed in the fetal stage itself. By the time of puberty, the number of primary follicles in each ovary will be around only 60 to 80,000. See, oogonia was 2 million, right? Finally, at the time of puberty, the number of primary follicles present in each ovary is just 60 to 80,000 only. Now, each primary follicle is again surrounded by many layers of granulosa and develop one layer called theca. Then it is called a secondary follicle. So primary follicle will develop into secondary follicle. This will happen only after puberty. Now this secondary follicle will attain one fluid filled cavity called antrum, which is actually uh, consisting of fluid which is secreted by the granulosa cells, the important component of which is estrogen hormone. And theca, which is developed here, will be further developed and form theca interna towards the inner side and theca externa towards the outer side. So the secondary follicle consists of antrum, that is fluid filled cavity, and the number of granulosa cells is actually increased when compared to the primary follicle, and there is theca interna and theca externa also. Later it will attain, that is once this process is completed, after attaining this antrum and this theca interna and externa, now this secondary follicle is considered as a tertiary follicle. So this tertiary follicle is the stage where the primary oocyte will complete the first meiotic division. So this is in this stage, that is in the primary follicle stage, this will be primary oocyte only. In the secondary follicle also it will be primary oocyte only. But once it is differentiated into tertiary follicle, that is once the secondary follicle attains these two, that is antrum and theca interna externa and all, then this tertiary follicle, inside this tertiary follicle, the primary oocyte is completing its first meiotic division. Therefore, one secondary oocyte and one first polar body will be produced. That's why the first polar body is produced. Later, the tertiary follicle will mature, will increase in size and will produce one mature follicle called the Graafian follicle. So the Graafian follicle basically consists of secondary oocyte only. But the difference here is when it is changing into Graafian follicle, this secondary oocyte will be surrounded by zona pellucida. It's a new layer surrounding it. It's a non-cellular layer surrounding it. So it will one zona pellucida layer will be added surrounding the secondary oocyte. Now it will start undergoing reduction division. That is, second reduction division will start in the secondary oocyte, but again this reduction division will be arrested in the metaphase 2 stage. Right. Now after this, by the stimulation by the luteinizing hormone, there will be ovulation process. That is, ovum is released. So actually in the ovulation process, the released content will consist of secondary oocyte. It's not the ovum because the reduction division is not yet completed. It is still in the arrested state only in the metaphase 2. Therefore, during ovulation, strictly speaking, secondary oocyte is released. Now, when the secondary oocyte, now secondary oocyte is already having, it's not free as we have already seen. Along with this secondary oocyte, there will be granulosa cells also. So from the Graafian follicle, when the ovulation is taking place, secondary oocyte will be released with the granulosa cells surrounding it. It's not releasing individually. So at the time of fertilization, now this secondary oocyte will complete its reduction division, right? Therefore, the ovum and the second polar body is released. So the meiosis process actually started here in the fertilization, that is in the fetal stage, but it will be completed at the time of fertilization. If fertilization is not taking place, if no fertilization occur, there will not be completion of second round of meiosis at all. So that's how the oogenesis process in the female will be. So these are all the different stages of the follicular development in the ovary. So as we know, this is the germinal epithelial layer, and this is completely stroma is. The stroma is divided into the cortex towards the outer side, and this is the medulla is. So medulla will possess this blood vessels, lymph vessels, and all. Whereas this cortex will possess the follicles in different stages. This is a primordial follicle, primary follicle, secondary follicle, and you can see the difference here. The secondary follicle is attaining the antrum, right? Now it is called the second tertiary follicle. Now this is the Graafian follicle, that is fully mature graphic follicle. Now in the process of ovulation, the secondary oocyte is released. So you can see it is released along with some granulosa cells. Some granulosa cells will be remained here. That is, this is the remnant of the Graafian follicle after the ovulation. So once this ovulation is completed, the remnant of this Graafian follicle will develop into one yellow colored mass called corpus luteum. This one. So later, if there is no fertilization, it will be degenerated, and it will form one scare-like structure called corpus albicans. It's a white colored mass. So this is the released ovum. So once the ovum is released, this is how it will be. So you can see different layers inside this. This is the ooplasm. This is the haplonucleus present inside that, and immediately surrounding that there is vitelline membrane followed by the zona pellucida. Between this zona pellucida and vitelline membrane, there will be perivitelline space. And surrounding this zona pellucida, there is a cellular layer called corona radiata. This is how the released ovum will be. Now coming to the differences between the spermatogenesis and oogenesis. So what we have discussed is, as we know, this one takes place in the testes, whereas the oogenesis takes place in the ovaries. The important difference is spermatogenesis will begin only at puberty, but oogenesis will be initiated before birth itself. It's a continuous process. Throughout the life, it will just continue once you start after puberty. This is discontinuous process because it will be stopped after menopause. Now here, the male will not be born with the precursor cells because it is not starting before the birth. Therefore, when the male is born, there are no precursor cells inside the seminiferous tubules. But here the female will be born with the precursor cells. As we have seen, the primary oocytes are generated and primary follicles are also produced before the birth itself. Here the meiotic divisions are symmetrical. That's the reason why when one primary spermatocyte undergoing meiosis, in the first round there will be two equally sized cells, and again second round also two equally sized cells. Totally 4 cells will be produced. But here it is asymmetrical. That's the reason why these polar bodies are produced. Each spermatogonium generates 4 sperms. That's what we have seen. But each oogonium can generate only one mature egg. This particular thing you can compare with the plants also, which we have seen earlier. So in the case of plants also, from one pollen mother cell, 4 pollen grains are produced, but from one megaspore mother cell only one embryo sac is produced. So this is one comparison between the plant and animal. So the number of male gametes produced and female gametes produced will be different. So in the next lecture, we'll discuss about the hormonal regulation of this oogenesis process in the menstrual cycle. So thank you very much for your attention.